You have to be able to express what you know in words, that's all. You don't have to have any definitive style or use of, you don't have to have a wide vocabulary, nothing like that. Very limited vocabulary, simple language, that will do. You don't need to decorate your answers with beautiful words, no use. But the thing is, you have to be able to write. Though you should not have any inhibition for writing. Even those questions that you don't know the answer to, you should be able to write something.
Write something related.
So get used to writing things. Get used to expressing ideas, that will be very useful.
Civil service exam process is quite strenuous.
Yes.
It requires long hours of constant study. How did you maintain your tempo, and what did you do to break the monotony of your preparation?
Yes, definitely. This is one thing where many people break down halfway through and quit, and probably the reason many people don't succeed. Especially when it becomes your second or third or fourth attempt, it becomes all the more frustrating. So what I would tell people from my personal experience is that you continue doing whatever you were doing before you started. For example, I used to chat with friends, we used to go out, go to movies, I used to play basketball, I used to watch movies, I used to do Facebook.
All those should continue.
All those things should go along with your preparation. Because the moment you start restricting your leisure activities or your general activities, if you talk with friends over the phone for long periods of time, try to cut short on the time. Okay. Don't cut off your friends. If you are used to talking to your parents every day, do continue talking to them, or to your siblings, or you are used to watching movies. Do continue watching movies. Just restrict the amount of time dedicated to those things. Don't cut off anything from your life just because you are preparing the civil service. Because the moment you stop doing something that you are used to doing for many years, that automatically brings a level of stress into you. You don't need to think about the exams to get stressed. It automatically brings stress into you. And on top of that, you start worrying about the exam. It doubles the stress, and then you don't have that leisure activity to de-stress yourself. So it is a kind of a vicious cycle. Once you fall into it,
everything you have to continue.
Yes, continue your hobbies and your leisure activities, things that make you happy. Do all those things. Continue doing those things. Those things are more important than the hours you put in for study.
The trend suggests that professionals are more successful in this exam.
Yes.
Does this exam prove difficult for humanities and social science background candidates?
See, I can't discriminate between professionals and non-professionals. I am from a professional background. I can tell you personally that has helped immensely in this exam preparation. And the results can definitely tell you that professionals have totally outscored the non-professionals.
Correct.
Yes, sir. So, taking both these things into consideration, I can confidently tell you that yes, coming from a professional degree, coming from a professional background does have its own advantages. There are things that you don't need to actively do while you prepare. There are skills that you already picked up from your degree. In the process of gaining your degree, there are skills that you already picked up, and that those things you don't need to go through again. You already have those skills. You just need to study. For example, what I told you, sitting and studying for long hours, sitting and writing long answers.
That was their
yes,
part of your
managing stress. These are the things that I don't believe a non-professional degree can give you as much stress as a professional degree, especially a degree like MBBS can give you. That gives you immense stress, especially towards the final year and now. The amount of stress that is involved, because people used to say once you pass your final year exam, there is no other exam in the world that you will find difficult, because that is probably the toughest exam that you are going to face in your life. So that the kind of training that your professional course gives you is immensely useful when you come for an exam like this, where the competition is fully, kind of diverse.
How helpful is one's background in his success?
Probably the same
answers.
Yeah.
What should be the best strategy to tackle negative marking?
I don't usually, the way because we have to prepare multiple choice questions for our UG entrance, for our PG entrance. So what I was taught and what I used to follow was to not fear negative marking.
Not to fear about it.
I was never afraid of negative marking. I never even considered that this question had a negative mark.
There are 50% chances to...
Because both my attempts, I attempted all questions in the second paper. She said all questions. And the first paper also, I was not very familiar with the GS especially when I was writing it first time around. And still, I attempted around 80%, if I remember correctly. So my score was not exceptionally great, but it doesn't matter. Nobody looks at your score. You just need to get across. So rather than attempting only 60% and sitting confident that all the 60 are correct, it would be better to go and attempt 90, so that you get, along with that 60, you get another 10 to the 3 correct. So negative marking is something you should never fear. Go face it head to head. That's all.
Question is, how did you prepare for the interview?
Interview preparation is nothing compared to what you prepare for the mains, because the volumes that you read for the mains will definitely come in handy for your interview preparation. The only thing you need to do is you need to develop that confidence. Because in the interview, the only thing that matters, as far as I can understand, is confidence. If you're confident on that day, if you're confident going there and sitting in front of the board, you're confident talking to them, that will definitely reflect in your marks. Whichever you make the right answer, you don't make
always
the right answer.
naturally presenting. So any kind of preparation.
Yes, so what they say about the interview, they don't call it an interview, they call it a personality test. So unless you're confident about yourself, you won't show your real personality. You try to hide things,
Correct.
you try to fake, you try to be someone else,
More
and those
defensive.
things will become very evident when you go and sit there under stress. So try to be yourself, be confident, because you have to understand the fact that you have been chosen out of probably 5 or 6 lakh people who are attempting this exam. You are among the top 2,500 that have been called for the interview. So you are good enough.
So no specific preparation for interview.
No, just keep reading the newspaper. And for those people who can't talk in English properly, and those people who are choosing English as their language, what I used to do was I used to talk in English with my friend. Probably 1 month before the interview. So from that time on, we always used to talk in English with each other. We totally cut off our mother tongue. We totally cut off Malayalam from our conversation. We made the rule that we'll talk in English. We used to go walking every day in the morning at 5 a.m. So we used to walk around, we used to jog in the morning. So while jogging, we used to take the newspaper with us and open up the front page, take that headline out, and discuss that topic in English for the next 1 hour. So that was totally in English. So discussing with talking to your friend, because that is one place you can make any mistake you want, and he's not going to tell you anything. So when you're confident, you are definitely most comfortable with your friends more than anyone else. So talk with your friends in English. Ensure that your English is good. It has to be good. There is no other way about it. You don't need to have a vocabulary or anything. But what you have to express your ideas in English or in whatever language you're choosing. Expressing your ideas is very important. So ensure that is done in whatever means you can.
Which type of questions were asked in your interview, and did you answer all the questions?
No, I did not. The kind of questions that were asked, like I told you before, that is just a personality test. So they asked me where I came from, what was my name, what was my roll number. Since I was from the medical background, they asked me a couple of general questions in medicine, what my hobbies were, who my role model was. And I was from Kerala, so they asked me a couple of questions from Kerala. That's all. So among these, there were questions that I had a good answer to. You can always answer the first question, but it leads the board member from there to another question. So he goes from there to another question about the same topic. So when it goes to the third or fourth question, you'll reach a point where you can't answer. So there is nothing wrong about it. You can just tell him, sorry sir, that I just know this much, I'm not sure about what you're asking. That's all.
If you don't know,
you don't know, that's all. Don't try to create answers there.
Was there any specific area where the emphasis was on?
Hobbies.
From your biography?
Hobbies. Both interviews, one thing they definitely emphasize on was hobbies. Sports, especially sports and arts.
What were your hobbies?
I had given hobbies cricket, basketball, tabla. So they asked from all those areas.
Before getting down to actual preparation, what kind of reading do to prepare one's suitability for this examination? What is the outside reading one should do?
I don't think outside reading has... see, anyone who wants to write the exam is actually suitable to write the exam.
He's passionate about it.
Only when you're passionate about the exam will you want to write it in the first place. You don't need to test yourself with anything else to know if you're suitable or not. There is no litmus test for this exam. If you feel that you are passionate about it, you want to go and write the exam, go and write it, that's all. Don't think too much about if you will be a misfit in the service or anything. Everyone who comes into service will fit himself or herself in some way or the other. There is space for every kind of person.
Another important question. What is your advice to the candidates who have failed in this exam?
My advice would be the very famous quotation that failure is the stepping stone to success. That is very, very, very relevant as far as the civil service exam is concerned, because I failed the first time through. I had also gone once before, I failed. But that was an immense learning experience, because at every moment in my preparation the second time, I had something or the other that was reflecting back from my previous preparation.
Okay.
When I was preparing for my optionals, I exactly knew what I should do, what I should not do. And preparing for my GS, I knew what had gone wrong the previous time. For the interview, I was super confident the second time, because once you go for the interview, you know that it is nothing. It is just a cakewalk. So once you have gone through the actual process and you go back a second time, you'll be super confident. Nobody will be able to beat you the second time around, for the interview at least. So failing the first time is actually a very good thing. Probably had I qualified the first time, I would have got some rank around 400, 500, 600. I would have been happy definitely. But I would never have gained the kind of experience that I gained while failing. So failure first time around is actually very useful as far as the second time preparation is concerned. There are many things you can learn from your failure.
Failure is actually a stepping stone. That's very good. Had you thought of an alternative apart from civil service? That is a relevant question that you are.
Yes, I'm actually doing my post-graduation, so I definitely have my fallback option. That is one thing that gave me the confidence to write it the second time. Because you can't just go on sitting at home and preparing without doing anything. Especially being a doctor, you are forced to go for a post-graduation. So I was in a post-graduate course second time around. So that gave me confidence to actually confidently write the exam. Even if I failed, I did not have anything to worry. I had an option.
One question is, can you give your mark detail in final?
I don't exactly remember.
That I'll take.
You can take it.
And final 2 words. Your words on Chronicle magazine.
Reading one magazine is very important as far as main preparation is concerned. Even though I did not have the time to regularly follow any magazine, there are probably 3 or 4 very good magazines available. Chronicle, then Civil Service Times, the Wizard, Frontline. I wouldn't recommend reading the Frontline on a regular basis. There are 4 or 5 magazines that are totally dedicated to civil services, and Chronicle is one of them. So I'll ask you to take up one magazine and ensure that you read the same thing throughout
and
from the beginning to end and completely. And don't follow multiple magazines. Whatever magazine that you are choosing, choose it and follow it throughout from the beginning to the end of your preparation, and read it completely and follow it regularly. And the digest kind of thing that they bring about at the end, that is also very useful.
Compact notation.
Yes, very useful.
Your words on Victor Growth Science Academy.
Yes, Victor Growth. I actually attended the Victor Growth Academy for the interview coaching. So you know how important mock interviews are. Before giving the actual interview, you get to attend 4 or 5 mock interviews. They help you a lot in boosting your confidence. And more than that, if I remember properly, the questions that were asked to me during the mock interview at Victor Growth, many of those questions in some form or the other came from my actual interview. For example, at Victor they had asked me about my hobbies, especially tabla. So that was when I actually got aware that there are questions that can be asked about your hobby. I knew that hobbies would be asked, but I thought I knew everything about tabla, but I did not actually know anything. So then I went back and read about it. Similarly about my hobby, cricket. So these are things that you kind of tend to neglect, because it is your hobby, you will be knowing everything. That is what our assumption will be, but that is not the case. You are expected to know more about your hobby than you actually know. So those are the small deficiencies that got revealed through my mock interviews with Victor Growth and with other academies. So that was actually very useful for my final actual interview.
Thank you, Sriram.